Well, let's welcome Mr. Mark Kashman, Senior Product Manager on the Office 365 team. Mark owns, among other things, Office 365 Video. Welcome, Mark. It's great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you bet. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Bill, for having me on the show. It's a nice opportunity.
I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the decoration.
Yeah, so if you can all help me, I'm trying to get Bill to shave up that chin and join me with the caterpillar on his lip. This is for Movember. I'm a big supporter of promoting men's health, and it's something I've been doing for 4 years. And each year it's a little bit different. I can never do the Christophe, French twirl, but I'm trying to do that this year. So I've got a little length if I just get a little bit of waxing going.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we're running a little long, but I want to give you all the time we need. So we will continue to run long because you were responsible on the marketing side for one of my favorite features, which is Office 365 Video. And why don't you, first of all, for those folks who may not have had a chance to see it yet, fill us in on what that feature is and how it works.
Yeah. So Office 365 Video is a part of Office 365, as it sounds. And it's one of those top-tier tiles. You click into it, and either as an admin or as a user, you essentially are clicking into an enterprise video streaming solution. And it's characterized by having majority of the UI and the experience be native Office 365. But it's also powered by SharePoint Online and Azure Media Services. So you get the richness of metadata, you get some of the benefits of eDiscovery in terms of video content, but really the benefit to the end user is you get great streaming video that you can have in multiple channels. You can access it through web browsers of all sizes, both phone all the way up to something as big as the Surface Hub. And we're also delivering apps. So we've got an iPhone app out in the market, and we're thinking through other apps into the future. But really just gives a great reach so that people can communicate via video. It's a huge trend, obviously, if you look at what analysts are saying. Video is just going up and up. Look at us today, we're on video. And imagine this talk internally if we were to then take it on demand, something that maybe is live in Skype for Business or Skype in a local meeting, and then published out to Office 365 Video for everybody to consume, even to the extent of where you want to put it onto a team site and start to embed it outside of the portal. We're supporting that as well. So it's a pretty rich solution, and to be honest, really I think bridging from what you and Bill were talking about, it is what we've seen people build on SharePoint over the last, you tell me better, but maybe 5 to 6 years of people building video portals on SharePoint. We're really taking that and delivering that as a default offering of Office 365, obviously taking out the complexities of building the UI and connecting to the back-end service and, of course, managing those end-user endpoints in a good experience. But it really is derived off of, we saw a lot of people building video portals, and we thought that would make a great addition to Office 365. We think it would make also a great transition to how people might start to think about leveraging the cloud. So we're pretty excited. We've had a really good first 6 months in production, and releasing tons of features and getting a lot of great feedback.
Well, and to back up what's one of the scenarios you mentioned, one of the things we do at IT Unity is our Skype meetings are recorded and pumped up to Office 365 Video. So we use that to archive our meetings so that team members can catch up, or if we forget why we made a decision, we can actually go back and review that discussion at that time. And one of the other things I love, which I think you're getting ready to show right now about Office 365 Video, is the fact it really demonstrates that Office 365 is a lot more than just SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, and Skype for Business. It's leveraging across not only the Office 365 services, but Azure as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how the service actually works?
Yeah, our intent is that it's an integrated experience. Whether you're a techie, like obviously, hopefully, folks on the call today, where you want to know how does it run, what powers it, and certainly what are the features and functionality. Our intent is to leverage the best services, the best UI, the best of everything that we have. And so a lot of the solutions, certainly in the way that people built it in the past, either was 100% on SharePoint, they may have had their own encoding system if they did that, certainly their level of sharing and the streaming media services that we've had. But really we're trying to leverage and connect a lot of that experience in 365. So the graphic that I have up here, and I really just am looking at, if I were a person uploading, I've signed into Office 365, very similar to what you saw Bill once he clicked into Office 365. If you go to the app launcher, there is the video tile. and you would click into video, you'd see the home page. If you have the ability to upload videos either to every channel or just individual channels, you're uploading through effectively an app or a page that's hosted in SharePoint Online. But to the end user, you are basically at an Office 365 feature level. Once you start uploading, you're putting the initial video into SharePoint. So we're going to store that initial video file, and we're going to start a workflow that's going to take that video over to Azure Media Services, which is going to do our heavy lifting of encoding. It's going to give us a thumbnail, and then ultimately for playback. So once we get that little transfer back and forth of original file in SharePoint Online, we can then expect that if you needed to do an e-discover or an audit that includes video content, that we wouldn't be excluded, so that certainly the video portal plays into that. We get the richest of metadata in terms of searching and discovery, so it does feed into Delve. So anything, the thumbnail, the metadata, really the video itself, feeds into the Office graph, which gives us both search capabilities, whether you're inside the portal or out, but also that you get these video cards that now flow through Delve. So if you and I have been working together closely for maybe 2 months or so, and I upload a new video, automatically that's probably going to show in your Delve feed as a new piece of content that Mark's added to the system. It's going to have a nice look and feel in terms of the Delve card. It looks like it's a video. You expect to click and play it. And so we've got a nice connection to the search engine, which of course the Office graph sits on top of. But in Azure Media Services, one of the main things we do is we optimize for playback so that you get less buffering, you get a nice high quality resolution per whatever device you're using. And I really do mean whatever device, whether it's an iPhone, an Android tablet, a Surface Book, really any device you can think of, any size screen, any browser, so that when we have now our HTML5 player, we're going to detect what device you're on, we're going to detect what bandwidth you have available, and certainly even now, since we've included a CDN component, which really comes from our Azure team, we also detect where you're located. So if you're traveling or you just happen to consistently work away from the main headquarters or where your primary data center is located, we do have a secure CDN solution. So no matter where you're at, you're going to have a nice experience. It's going to be secure by design, both at rest and in transit. And then, of course, we're connected to the social fabric of Office 365. Primarily, that's represented by Yammer, so I can post a video and raise awareness through Yammer and have a discussion, and that's an inline experience in the video page. But I can also, in the future, we're starting to get that sentiment from Office Graph so we can make better recommendations. You can more easily share through email, and with email, you're starting to see things come through with likes. Of course, we have tagging in boards, and that'll become more pervasive across Office 365. So really, you should expect that it should be very easy to share video, consume the video, and certainly upload and manage the video.
Well, this is a great diagram, but nothing speaks as well as the actual beautiful experience you guys have created. So that top layer, the Office 365 video, is how we interact with it. Everything else is behind the scenes, really. Right. And yes, let's give us a quick tour of the actual portal.
Yeah, so some of the things that I mentioned, here I am in Office 365, and this particular demo environment is pure 365. But with Bill's demo, certainly there is a hybrid component to get to video, and that is something that's going to be baked into 2016. So the same as you could connect via hybrid for OneDrive or Delve, obviously sites and overall search, video will also be something that you can then tap into to navigate from an on-premises portal, like an HR portal, click onto the app launcher, click into video, and that will take you seamlessly into video. But if I were to click on this video tile, that's going to take you in what you're seeing in the background, which is the home page, where I, as maybe a communications lead internally for my company, can manage the videos that you see at the top here. I can change them at any time, so that's effectively like pinning a video at the main level. We get trending, what's being viewed the most, and this is sort of a cut across every 14 days, or over a 14-day period. We refresh every 24 hours what's being viewed the most, so it stays more consistently and more dynamic. And this will be something where we start to tap into the Office graph as well, so that in the future, now that I'm logged in as Mark, I might see content that's trending around me, not just trending around the whole company, so to make this a more personalized experience. And then you also have the ability to pin the different channels. You can have a lot of different channels, many thousands of channels if necessary. And here at the home page, you have the ability currently to pin 3. If I go into a channel, you'll start to see a little bit on, now I could delegate ownership. So if I were the corporation's marketing manager for a lot of inbound material, I could then delegate to maybe a project lead or somebody who manages the help desk or somebody who's in charge of training. And they could start to own their own corner of the portal, which here is the executive corner. So you can imagine the different roles and responsibilities of who would be adjusting this content, who would be able to upload it, but with the intent probably to have everybody in the company be able to view the videos. Maybe on a different channel you can change those permissions so that maybe it's only for the project team for a period of time or for forever. So I'm going to go into the channel settings just to show you a little bit on the types of choices you can make per channel. Obviously you can create a new channel, you can rename it and add a different color, especially if some of your branding changes over time. It's nice to have that flexibility. But some of the smarts behind it, obviously we're leveraging the SharePoint permissions model, and here we're abstracting it just to make it simple to use it within the user interface here. But I am the owner of this channel, so I have the ability to get to this backstage to go and adjust these settings. So that's who's listed here. And certainly I can limit this down to just one person or a set of people or even a group that I've got in Active Directory, even leveraging some of the new Office 365 groups. The middle tier here is anybody that I want to enable to upload a video to this channel. And then down below is if I want to let it for the whole company, I can do that, or I can set this to be only a limited set of people or a specific group. To change that top area, if I want to come in here and I maybe had this particular video in for a week or two and I want to adjust it, or I've just uploaded a new video that I want to highlight, it's really easy to go into the video picker. I can do a search to trim it down, or I can just navigate through, select a new video. I'm going to choose this one here and then hit OK. And then when I save it down, automatically that's going to now be available to my users who visit this channel. And then finally, one of the things we just introduced, which is, I certainly want to cover what we've got on the roadmap, but one of the things that just recently landed was this ability to adjust Yammer. So you can turn it on or off per channel, but if you really want to, you can turn it on with a specific group that you want to emphasize. So the way to do that is you just grab this ID from this Yammer marketing group, and then I plug the ID in there, and now anytime when somebody goes to post in this particular channel, they're going to be posting to that marketing feed. And then finally,
awesome.
Everything that you've been seeing here is responsively designed. So this is something, of course, we've seen people build on SharePoint for a long time, good responsive design, and it's just something that we're baking in, so I'll try to minimize the way you can see in the background. But as I navigate down, watch what happens, obviously, or maybe something like a tablet size. We get now a carousel, we get fewer columns, and as I get down to something that's a little bit more like a 4-inch screen, we, of course, pay attention to whether you see the words of an icon, get down to now just 2 columns, but responsibly designing, responsibly reacting to what size screen you have, and certainly the experience from a touch perspective gets even better, and that's throughout all the different pages. Final thing I'll show you, just I think that completes going back to the diagram, is now this video that's playing is going to be playing from Azure Media Services. So it plays nicely on this particular screen. Obviously, I can scale it up to full screen. I can adjust my resolution if I want to. But here's where the metadata is coming from SharePoint Online. I'm getting recommendations from the Office graph down here, and I now have the ability to embed the video if I wanted to into a team site. I can share via email. I can share or post into Yammer. And all the while, this experience is being brought together by this consistent UI and user experience, but really bringing in all of these other services into one nice experience for the end user.
And there's mobile apps as well, right?
Correct. So we've got a nice iPhone app currently, and of course, responsive design gets us on other platforms. We're tracking currently, what is the uptake of the iPhone app? How are people using it? Whether they like, what do they don't like? And certainly, we're looking at how we bring this to Android, Windows Phone, and really optimizing our experience in a mobile way, including when you drop these things into a team site, or if people have built responsive portals, that we at least adhere to that responsiveness with the embed code.
Awesome. And we got a question from one of the attendees asking, where is all of this stored in Office 365? Is it in the Office 365 side? Is it in the Azure Media Services side? Where is it in your Azure Blob Storage? Where is it exactly?
Sure. So I'll bring up the diagram again and just kind of walk through it. Your initial file that you upload, and again, it doesn't matter what file type. It could be an AVI, it could be an MP4, a WMV. We take a whole bunch of file types in, and that original file does get stored in a SharePoint Online document library specific to that channel. And that is really just for e-discovery and for retrieval if need be from a deletion scenario. We send a copy of that file then over to Azure Media Services that's going to go then encode it into multiple file formats. So we'll get multiple files that are associated to the original. When somebody clicks play, it'll obviously detect their bandwidth, detect their device, and serve them up the best quality possible. But these video files do actually live in Azure Media Services. They're extremely protected and ACLed to the tenant and, of course, to the individuals in terms of who can play the video, who can delete the video, those types of actions. We generate the thumbnail. That gets stored back in SharePoint Online, gets associated to the video. So the overall storage is primarily between SharePoint Online and Azure Media Services. And, of course, when you start to add things like the CDN, if somebody goes and clicks a video at a distance and the CDN is where they're playing from, obviously that's going to be in a temporary cache that I believe lives for about 2 or 3 days. But, again, secure, ACLed to the permissions of the Office 365 license, and carried all the way through is the encryption at rest, encryption in transit, and included in our player is encryption in playback as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So if I am an American employee of a company and I've missed a meeting because I happen to be in Sydney, and I go and look at the recording of that meeting from my Office 365 video, it's actually going to be serving that to me through the CDN in the Australian data center.
Yep, most likely that's going to be the case. It's going to be playing from the CDN lives in Azure, but the same concept in terms of where the data centers are. And our intent is we detect where you are, where's the closest endpoint that we can serve you the best video file from, streaming from a true media services environment, but it happens to be no longer that immediate one that's right next to your original data center, but it's closest to where we can detect that you're viewing it from at that time.
Awesome. And so just to summarize, because we're still getting a few more questions, the original video file stays and lives in SharePoint, but that's only been uploaded, really. No, you don't ever really interact with that after it's uploaded. Everything you're experiencing is coming from Azure Media Services after it's been transcoded into the individual media files, and those live in Azure Media Services.
That's correct. That's correct. The only thing that we're thinking in terms of futures is when we want to enable the ability to download a file. And there's a couple scenarios where you might want to download the original, and we'll certainly be able to enable that. And then there's sometimes times when you want to download some of the ones that are more intended on playing back, most likely for mobile scenarios. You want to take the video with you, watch it on the plane, and optimized, really, when we do the encoding and standardize the format, if you're the original person who uploaded it, you most likely have the right codec and you know, the program to play the video back. But the versions that have been standardized into an MP4 format, which is really playable across, you know, anything, and obviously in our environment we give you the playback so that it's the best experience. But if you were to download that and watch it offline, most likely the version that's been encoded by Azure Media Services is the one that's going to give you the best playback for all of your users.
Oh, that's fantastic. And not to put too fine a point on it, but Azure Media Services is the exact same set of services that one of my clients, NBC, uses to broadcast the Olympics to the United States, and that Sochi actually used to broadcast the entire games through Sochi2014.com. So this is a seriously robust set of services behind this.
Yeah, and for us, really, it was the best option, if not, you know, a significant option for building out Office 365 video. So if a customer today on SharePoint 2013, or if they're playing with 2016 and they're going to build a video portal, they could do everything that we did: build the UI, connect to Azure Media Services, leverage obviously a lot of the encoding, make the choices for the types of videos they can upload and what the experience is if they wanted to build a mobile app, if they wanted to build that connection to Yammer and all that stuff. But we really wired that all together, and choosing Azure Media Services, you know, it's been proven out. You know firsthand, and certainly there's a lot of great sessions if you want to see how Azure Media Services was leveraged for the Olympics. And again, that's 2012, 2014. I believe we've won the bid for Rio, and I know you're working on that. And so it really is a robust back end that to do custom work, of course, you can do really anything you want and build against it. And it's exactly what our team in engineering has been doing. They've been building against Azure Media Services. They get the benefits that it's tried and true, and they have a whole grab bag of other capabilities, and a lot of which I want to talk about from a roadmap perspective, that is just going to be us standardized on how do we take that service in Azure Media Services and make it available to all Office 365 customers.
Awesome, and I want to get to the roadmap, but one more point you brought up, though, that I wanted to touch on without digressing too much. But I would imagine if a customer were to try to build this on-prem, their budget probably couldn't even begin to approach what you guys have spent on building this service. And I'd like you to comment a little bit about how this kind of thing brings capabilities that would be beyond the reach of most customers to right to them through Office 365.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of first things to think about. There's certainly the licensing for the different components. That could be, for Azure Compute, obviously for SharePoint, standing up the service. Typically, with a portal like this, you're going to have a little bit more of a dedicated resources. You may be doing the streaming yourself. If you use Azure Media Services, obviously they're going to do it for you, but you're going to pay for it. And then there's the lifecycle management. If you build the project, you typically would probably be about a 6 to 8 month project. So you've got the development time, and then just maintaining it, not just from a reliability perspective, but users are going to want to have another app or another feature or another connection to some back-end service. And those are things that we're going to certainly, like Bill was mentioning, you were talking about user voice. We're very focused on what user voice is providing as feedback. The number one request when we first launched was to enable embed, so that you can embed in a team site. And so that's now available. It's been in production for a number of months. It's something you can do across on-prem and online. So even in that scenario, we didn't just give you the embed code, but we did the testing so that if you were to drop it onto an on-premises team site, we manage the authentication. We give the option to sign in if they're not already signed in. So just thinking through some of those nuances, and it's just going to be cost of development, cost of deployment, and cost of maintenance and uptake. But a lot of the things that happen in Azure, everything we talked about, from transcoding, from playback, storage, anything that's happening in Azure is a cost that is not incurred by the customer. It's embedded in the cost of your Office 365 investment. So there's huge savings there. And certainly as we start to do things like one of the big items longer a little bit on the roadmap, not on the roadmap today that I'll show you on the physical office.com/roadmap, is the one for us to take advantage of some of the speech-to-text technology that now is a part of Azure Media Services. So nothing huge to announce today in terms of a date, but certainly the team is thinking through design. And if you look at that as sort of an option that we have, and same as a customer on premises would have, imagine the compute when you start tapping into that service. It would certainly add a lot in terms of cost and complexity. And then not only do you just get the service and what it does, but you then want to build a nice experience around that. So with this rich additional metadata on a file, you could essentially search and find anything and go right to that spot in the video. And that would be complex in terms of development. So the team is certainly thinking through that. Again, not a big announcement today, but certainly a consideration that we're taking seriously. But it really is indicative, I hope, to answer your question, that even a small feature would have complexities to roll it out, to test it, and it is something where you see us on this cadence of about every 3 months releasing new features, obviously refining performance and user interface and accessibility. And some of the stuff I'll show you here in a second is just another set of innovation that we're bringing really in the next 3 months, and each of them a little bit has their different timeline, but they're now all officially on the roadmap, which means they're in development and landing soon.
Awesome. Well, I think that, it must be really exciting to be part of what I think was really sort of the first flagship piece of Office 365 that demonstrates that idea of pulling things from across the Microsoft Cloud into a new experience, delivering something to customers that they could probably not build effectively or affordably on their own. That must be a really exciting project to be a part of, Mark.
Yeah, it's great. We're really, the portals is now going into the future. Obviously, we still focus a lot on custom portals and enabling even custom business solutions on team sites and portals. But where we really started to get a lot of feedback, and certainly our team wanted to take advantage of some of the ways of user experiences, was something like video. There's also the experiences in Delve. If you think about what people have built for people portals, Now a lot of those experiences and capabilities are being baked into the Delve experience. And then if you look at even just Delve and by itself, and something like Office 365 groups, and I actually even think the way that Exchange is going holistically in the cloud, they really are bringing a lot of these experiences. There is an Office Graph element now inside Exchange Online called Clutter, which really just might look like a folder at the end of the day to the end user, but it's got the smarts and it's building off of the graph, which lives obviously not in Exchange Online. It lives in the breadth of 365. And if you look at groups, I know groups is a pretty complex topic in terms of how we do it, but it is just that, a member of a group, which could be 10 people, 100 people, navigating through the different services, going from a shared calendar to a shared files, to even in the future a shared team site, and being able to just access it and navigate to it, leverage it, easily share, getting a lot of those boundaries of permissioning and deployment. But it is really bringing together services from across 365, back-end services, front-end services, and of course, some of these are coming out as overall new experiences for end users.
Awesome. Well, so there's some cool stuff yet to come for video that you're able to actually tell us about today. So why don't you share with us some of the roadmap that has changed and some of the announcements for Office 365 video?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to go to the roadmap, and this is the physical roadmap. This is live today if you want to go there today as I'm talking. The easiest way to get there that I remember is you just type in office.com/roadmap. But you'll see where it resolves to here. It takes you to the Success Center, which is really a center of gravity for a lot of use, adoption, and of course roadmap information that's coming. So it's a great destination to go to outside of just roadmap. I do encourage you to check it out if you haven't heard about what we're doing publicly. It's showing sentiment in terms of features and functionality that we're working on. The Success Center and the roadmap are a great place. Where you'll first start to find things, and I'll kind of walk you through here and then just dive into the video stuff. But certainly if you've looked at what's been launched since the roadmap went live, there's these items up here. There's now 63. It's a great place to just go learn about what is 365, what's new about it. Once we get into the listing something initially on the roadmap, it goes usually right into the in-development phase, which typically means it's about 2 to 3 months away from coming into production, which typically for us is that first release element, which is about 10% of the population. But basically, this is what the engineering team is working on. It's now real, out of planning and being coded, and they're starting to work on it. Once it starts to hit first release or starts to hit production for the first time, then it'll get moved into rolling out, which just means that it's starting to go to our customers. They're starting to experience it. They're giving us that first release experience feedback. But remember, anything in first release and beyond is production. It's fully supported. It's fully tested code and all that. And then finally, once we're now out of that 10% population, we move it to worldwide, and you should expect that it's in all data centers, or at least primarily in all data centers, and now it's been launched. So I'll show you a couple items in development. If you go there and you scroll down a little bit, I've tried to list everything so it's a little bit clear as Office 365 video dash new feature name. And so there are 7 listed here that are just now in development or coming into in development. And there's one item that is now rolling out, which is that Yammer piece that I just showed you. So we are starting to do analytics, and this is something where we want to first enable the end user. If they upload a video, they'll start to get that information about how many people are watching the video, what's the duration that they're watching the video, and over time of the life cycle of the video itself, what's the drop-off rate. Initially you might have put out an email or posted something to Yammer, people watched it, and then there was that drop-off. And just to give people that ability to look at not only how is the video doing, but maybe to get that sentiment of how could I do my videos differently. Maybe if I message again via Yammer or again via email, we're going to get that spike of traction. So we're starting the journey here in phase 1. Phase 2 really just rolls that out to be something that more of an aggregate across multiple videos. If you think of an admin scenario and getting into that value of how is my entire channel doing. So analytics is something that has been highly requested. It is something that we're doing here, certainly in video, and I think you'll hear a lot more around analytic investments across SharePoint, Office 365, and certainly even thinking through it, something as large as a new feature you've heard around Delve org analytics. So we're really focused on doing a better job with analytics all up. Some of the simple things like doing, if I delete a video file to be able to recover it, now there will be access to the channel recycle bin. And if you can think about it in terms of if you were to have deleted a document, you want to bring that back up, and certainly you have 90 days that will be in the recycle bin. When you bring it back up, we'll put it back into the video channel, and it'll go through that cycle of prepping that video to get it ready. Another basic one that gets requested is choose your own thumbnail. So certainly today we give you a thumbnail automatically generated from Azure Media Services. Now we're going to give the ability to get about 5 ones automatically from the service that you can choose through, or you can upload your own image so that you can represent the video in the way that you want to. And that'll carry through on the portal. If you embed the video, that thumbnail will carry through onto a team site. And of course, as it carries through Delve, that video thumbnail that you've chosen will be represented into that Delve card.
Awesome.
Finally, there are a couple things where we're obviously getting into new data centers. We're coming to the government zone, which is called GCC, and we're coming into China. These for us are really just a point in time. We're just working on the different aspects of getting our service either in the right level of certification for this new zone, or of course in China just by making sure that it lands right. And in China specifically, it's managed by a third party, so we're working with them to make sure that they're able to support the service as well. And then a couple things, we want to make sure that the upload experience is a lot better. So now you'll be able to see more information as you upload a video, how long is it taking, and you'll also be able to apply metadata while the video is uploaded. You won't have to wait until it's done. And there's some nice user experience elements that they're working on there. One of the cool things, and again thinking of the Office graph, you'll be able to see who's uploaded the video, but you'll also be able to list who's in the video. And this will be really key. Obviously, if you're on the video page, you'll be able to see who's in the video visually, but it also plays into giving us more information to the Office graph. So if you and I are closely related and you upload a video, because you're listed in a video as somebody who's speaking, that would come as additional signals to me that a video might come through my Delve feed, not just because you uploaded it, but because you're in it. And we think there's going to have huge value in terms of just being able to not only layer in more information that provides, more about the video, but how it actually is pumped through the system. And then finally, kind of a big one, which really is the precursor to what we talked about in the speech to text, is initially this first ability to upload a caption file. And this is something where we really are just tapping into an existing feature of Azure Media Services. We're tapping into the capabilities of SharePoint to be able to associate a video with a caption file, and certainly to upload multiple files if you have multiple languages. So really it'll just be a configuration change of the player to be able to show the captions, and the association of placing the file in a location and then mapping that to the timecode in the format that's required. So those are the main new items, and then the last one I'll just show you here. When it gets moved from in development and it starts to roll out, you'll see here I've got one item, Office 365 Video Yammer settings, and now this means that we're starting to see it in production, not yet worldwide, but certainly getting there within the next few weeks. And hopefully that's just the quick overview of some of the exciting things for video, but also just a little awareness of the roadmap and how we're leveraging it. So when these features do hit production, you can expect us to then start to blog about them, start to send messages to admins, and start to raise awareness both for usage but also for change management for our customers to be aware of what's coming.
Well, that team is working very, very hard, clearly. Those are some great new features.
Yeah, the team is doing a really nice job. They really are active on the forums. They love to get feedback. They're actively meeting with customers, 1 or 2 a week, as many as they can. They're very active on the Yammer network that we have, which is that IT Pro network, the Office 365 network. They look at user voice. They take it very seriously. And certainly they just think through what are some of the ways that we can tap into services that already exist. If there was something cool that was done for the Olympics, I know one thing that was really cool in the way that they built the Olympics is they had a rough cut editor. In rough cut editing, being able to take a live encoding, chop up a certain element, and then be able to serve that up through the web very quickly as a moment where they could have maybe a little title, play the video, play a series of clips, and then give it an outro. And those kinds of things are exciting to think about for the enterprise. If I had an hour-long video, and I wanted to just highlight in a Yammer post just 2 minutes of that video, then I can certainly do that. But just being able to tap into the Azure Media Services and accomplish that is something that that grab bag, like I mentioned before, is there. So it's very possible.
Well, fantastic work. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. Anything else you want to share with people before we wrap up our day?
Sorry, I missed that last part.
Anything else you want to share with people before we begin to wrap up here?
No, certainly, if you're an Office 365 customer, definitely go and enable and try out Office 365 video. Get the experience nailed down. Give us your feedback. Try out the new features, and just let us know what you like, what you don't like. And certainly, if you're playing with SharePoint 2016 Beta 2, get into that hybrid state, test that out, give us feedback, all the stuff that Bill's been talking about. There's great blogs, and video is a part of that. So we want to get the feedback on what it is like to use the video portal as an on-premises customer. Very possible and very much supported, and something we're super excited about.
Awesome. And is there a user voice channel specifically for Office 365 video?
There is. There's an overall Office 365 user voice channel, and then certainly you can dial it in, and there's an Office 365 video user voice that's a part of our portal's listening and feedback. Not too hard to find, and certainly something that the team is very honed on.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. Bill, anything you want to share with us before we wrap up for the day?
Oh, Mark summarized it great. Definitely get started with video for customers who are on premises. For your typical collaborative purposes. Maybe it's content management, records management. At the same time with Release Candidate, you're also able to take advantage of video as well through hybrid scenarios. So, if you're a full-scale cloud customer, you've got video available to you. If you're an on-premises customer, you've got video available to you. So really, it's a great opportunity, regardless of where you are, to be able to take advantage of some of what Mark showed, as well as, you'll receive that constant innovation and all of those roadmap items as well. So.
And just to wrap both of what both of you set up, this is a great demonstration with an amazing and innovative service in the cloud and a new release of SharePoint 2016 that brings the cloud to you on-prem to allow you to pick what you need for your business, whether that service is truly sitting only on-prem or whether it's sitting in the cloud, to pick that power and solve your business problems with it. So wonderful to see what you guys are doing. Thank you very much for running along with us. I appreciate it. I hope we didn't mess up your days too much. For those of you who are listening to the recording because you couldn't get into our website today, I apologize for that. And for those of you who are here live and want to share this with your colleagues, we will be putting this recording probably in 3 formats. The entire format, Mark's part and Bill's part, up to YouTube this afternoon, and we will be getting that out to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Bill, we'll look forward to seeing you next month. We'll determine the schedule for the next Tech Talk very shortly here. Given the holidays in the United States and worldwide, we will probably, I imagine, have 1 Tech Talk between now and the new year. So I'll look forward to seeing you then. So thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining, Mark.
You bet. Thanks for the opportunity, and everybody else have a great day.
Bye-bye, everybody.